challenges in bringing the kids so far, and we are really happy that you took the time and energy to do so. And remember, you're always welcome here. And I say to all the teachers, please, on your way back, have a safe drive. And if the driver is not driving the vehicle in accordance with how you think it should, say something. And we hope that you have a safe trip. And you're always welcome here. So thank you very much for coming. And just before we begin, before I continue on the agenda, just bring to the attention of this Honorable Senate that the clerk, Ms. Curtis, and I, on behalf, really, of all of the members of the Senate and the staff of the Senate, attended the Supreme Court building this morning on the invitation of the learned Chief Justice, the Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, OJ, to sign the condolence book for Mr. Justice Wolf, OJ, who passed. His passing was recognized at the last meeting of the Senate. His funeral service is tomorrow at the Spanish Town Cathedral. So we are grateful for the invitation, Ms. Curtis and I, from the learned Chief Justice. Statements by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the Senate today are the following: the Chief Justice's Annual Statistics Report for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022 for the Parish Courts of Jamaica. The Chief Justice's Annual Statistics Report for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022 for the Supreme Court of Jamaica of the Spanish Town High School. The Integrity Commission fact-finding report of findings and recommendations from the Ministry of Labor. Excuse me, it's not the Integrity Commission. It's the fact-finding report of findings and recommendations from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Booklets from the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries entitled 1, How We See You, 2, Projects and Programs Initiatives, 3, Production Incentive Program supporting small farmers and wealth creation through the Production Incentive Program. Ministry Paper number 46 of 2023 entitled Annual Report, Annual Performance Report for 2022-2023 from the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, along with a corrigendum to page 16 of that report from that ministry. Integrity Commission reports of investigation into the failure of the following employees of the Transport Authority to file statutory declarations with the Integrity Commission. Ms. Rochelle Hurd, Marlene Bailey Thompson, Krista Morrison, Kimone May, Karen McPherson, Jody and Nelson Michel, Kalia Kalisa Dobson, Christine Campbell Buckridge, Heather William Greenlee, Osborne Brown, Lloyd Boyne, Winston Morris, John Greaves, Javon Robinson, and Craig Brown. The Integrity Commission report of investigation concerning investigation into allegations of breach of the Corruption Prevention Act, the Customs Act, and the Integrity Commission Act by Councillor Mr. Lambert Weir of the St. Ann Municipal Corporation. The Auditor General's Department certified appropriation accounts for head 28,023 recurrent for the Court of Appeal for the year 2016-2017. booklets from the Ministry of Health and Wellness entitled 1, Achievements Highlights for the Financial Year 2022-2023, Financing the Cost of Health Care in Jamaica Towards Universal Health Coverage, a discussion paper, Your Vitals, Non-Communicable Diseases, edition, April 2023, Human Resources for Health, Clinicians, Workforce, and quarterly report for the Ministry of Health and Wellness entitled Vitals Coronavirus COVID-19 edition, dated December 20, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives. Petitions. Papers. Reports from committees. Notices of motions given orally. Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public Business Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before I outline the agenda for this morning, might I ask for recommittal of announcements, please?
Members would have heard the question. Those in favor? The item announcements is recommitted.
Also laid on the table of the Senate today are the following. 1, the Integrity Commission associated ruling regarding investigation in the failure of the employees of the Transport Authority, as names were read previously, to file statutory declarations with the Commission. And 2, the Integrity Commission associated ruling regarding investigations into allegations of breach of the Corruption Prevention Act, the Customs Act, and the Integrity Commission Act by Councillor Mr. Lambert Weir of the St. Anne Municipal Corporation.
Thank you very much. Public Business Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, today the agenda is not a lengthy one. It is anticipated that Senator Hill will take us through the Consumer Protection, Validation and Indemnity of Tribunal Act 2023, and it is anticipated that there will be 2 matters of national importance raised on the notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Hill.
Sorry, President, just before Senator Hill, just the bill before us, wasn't it already taken? It's a different bill?
Yes. You got your answer, Senator Brown?
Yeah, I hear them, but I'm not sure we debated it already, but sufficient.
Minister Hill, Senator Bunting, 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the leader said, this is a short bill, one that we, in fact, Senator Brown may have recalled it being tabled, but we're now going to take it through all its steps. By Section 44A of the Consumer Protection Act, the Consumer Protection Tribunal, hereinafter referred to as the Tribunal, is established to settle disputes arising out of complaints made by consumers to the Consumer Affairs Commission. The Minister appointed a tribunal pursuant to paragraph 1 of the third schedule to the Consumer Protection Act, hereinafter referred to as the Act, for a period of 3 years with effect from the 28th of May 2018 to the 27th day of May 2021. This appointment, Mr. President, of the Tribunal was published in the Gazette and in accordance with paragraph 7 of the third schedule to the Act. However, after the expiration of its tenure, Mr. President, the members of the Tribunal continued in office beyond the 27th day of May 2021 without being reappointed in contravention of paragraph 1 of the third schedule of the Act. Consequently, Mr. President, this bill seeks to validate and confirm as lawful the purported continuation in office of the members of the Tribunal and all official acts purportedly done by them in good faith and inadvertent as to their continuation in office, and in official acts not having been in compliance with the provisions of the Act during the period commencing on the 28th of May 2021 and ending on the 8th day of May 2022, and to indemnify the members of the Tribunal and persons who are liable to be proceeded against on the ground that the acts were unauthorized, illegal, or improper from liability in relation thereto. The bill, Mr. President, clause by clause analysis. The preamble provides the purpose of the legislation. Mr. President, it details that pursuant to paragraph 1 of the third schedule to the Consumer Protections Act, the Minister appointed the Tribunal for a period of 3 years with effect from the 28th day of May 2018 to the 27th day of May 2021. This appointment of the Tribunal, Mr. President, published in the Gazette in accordance with paragraph 7 of the third schedule to the Act. However, after the expiration of its tenure, Mr. President, the members of the Tribunal continued in office beyond the 27th day of May 2021 without being reappointed in contravention of paragraph 1 of the third schedule of the Act. Therefore, Mr. President, it is desirable to validate and confirm as lawful the continuation in office of the Tribunal and the official acts of the members of the Tribunal during the period May 28, 2021 to May 8, 2022. Clause 1, there's a short title, Mr. President. The clause provides for the short title of the bill. Clause 2, Mr. President, is the validation and indemnity. Subsection 1 provides that the continuation in office of the members of the Consumer Protection Tribunals specified in the schedule and in all the acts of those members in the exercise of their functions in good faith, Mr. President, and inadvertent as to their continuation in office and acts not having been in compliance with the provisions of the Act during the period commencing on the 28th day of May 2021, Mr. President, and ending on the 8th of May 2022 are declared and have been validly, properly, and lawfully made and done to all intents and purposes and with effect as if authorized pursuant to this Act. Subsection 2, Mr. President, provides that every person liable to be legally proceeded against on the ground that any of the acts referred to in subsection 1 was unauthorized, unlawfully done, or otherwise illegal or improper for any such reason, is hereby freed, acquitted, discharged, and indemnified, as well as against the King's most gracious Majesty, his heirs and successors, as well as against all persons whatsoever or whatever, Mr. President, from such liability. The schedule provides, Mr. President, for the list of persons that were members of the tribunal that continued in effect after the expiration of its term to which the bill applies. Memorandum of Objects and Reasons. The memorandum stipulates that the key objectives of the Act. Mr. President, if it pleases you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Very adroitly done, Minister. Senator Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. That must be the shortest speech Minister Hill has ever made in the Senate. I can't agree that it was efficient because, President, we're being asked to validate acts done over 4 years by this tribunal. But we have not been told how many acts was done unlawfully. What was the nature of the acts, if any, done unlawfully? So, in a sense, we are asked to, Senator Gill, may I say, rubber stamp the decisions of a tribunal, decisions of which we know not. And I'd have preferred if we were told that the tribunal heard 10 cases, 15 cases, 1 case, and they took decision amounting to X amount of dollars in compensation. But that has not been provided to the Senate, and I suspect it will not be provided in the other place. And as parliamentarians who are sworn to uphold accountability, there can be no accounting without the data being provided. What are the breaches that were to forgive? For example, and don't beat me up on this, Senator Webby, was a consumer reporting to on a company, and the company might have been aggrieved about the outcome and was not aware that the decision that the company felt aggrieved about was okay, I was done lawfully. And we are now cutting off that company's right to challenge. But we are doing so not knowing what wrong was committed. So those who promote truth and reconciliation, and the Bible itself requires that you must confess your sins. Tell us what was done wrong. And then let us forgive the sins. Let us forgive those who trespass against the people. But we know not what the trespass was. And this senator takes offense to just being asked to rubber stamp a decision of the executive. I did make a comment, that I was going to say whatever I get up to say, that this senator is not a yes man, a lackey, or a wimp who has surrendered my right to dissent. I'm not going to rubber stamp. So I really would prefer, before we close this debate, short as it is, Mr. President, to be told the magnitude of sins that were forgiven. Otherwise, there's a Jamaican saying, and I hope it's not unparliamentary, to buy something in a bag? That's the question, I'm not so sure. To buy kitten in bags. And so I would like to see the pedigree of the cat before purchasing that kitten. So that is what I am afraid of, Mr. President. I want to avoid that problem. So if we could get a sense, because there might very well have been nothing to forgive. No decision might have been taken by the tribunal. They might have realized that my tenure is up, and so I'm not going to sit. And instead, these people listed here, Professor Kent Pantry, a former DPP, attorney at law Diane Edwards, social activist Judith Wedderburn, and others. No, there's two different Diane. Yeah. So what we're looking at here is that we may be blaming people for things that they never did. But we would know, because the lack of efficiency in presenting this bill, which I'm almost sure was taken before, but you say it hasn't been taken before. It was on the table. So we'd like to know that. Second thing I want to raise, President, on a bill like this. I've said on many occasions that one of the first bills I dealt with when I sat on that side as a senator was a validation bill. And my friend, Senator Gill, would recall from then that sought to stick me with the label good faith, because I didn't like these good faith bills. But thankfully, the good faith didn't stick. Because I'm never a supporter of rubber stamping. Whether I'm on that side or on this side, the independence of my mind must be in the service of the Jamaican people. Not just to beat the desk and glorify the passage of a bill which could have a negative impact on the society. But we have a system of government where that should allow for checks and balances. And this bill comes after 4 years, 2018, when the term of the tribunal expired. Who in government has the task of monitoring the tenure of boards and tribunals? Who has the task to ensure that reappointment or new appointments take place? We can't continue to run government like this that allow for the laws to be breached. Good faith or no good faith, it amounts to bad governance. When we allow the law to be breached, the laws to be breached, and the administrative actions to prevent such breaches, a blind eye is turned to it. No concerns. So the Parliament must be here taking good faith bills, good faith bills, good faith bills, good faith bills, because the administrative system is not working. We need to avoid these good faith bills, which essentially is saying we are correcting for wrongs done by ensuring that no wrongs is done in the first place. So we have permanent secretaries. We have people in the ministries whose duty it is to make sure the laws are followed. In this case, for 4 years, nobody picked up that if the committee, if the tribunal was acting, it was acting unlawfully. And we're comfortable as lawmakers with seeing that happen. I therefore have a problem with this bill without more. Not because I want the people to be prosecuted or sued in any way. I would hope, Mr. President, that with the government majority, they'll pass the validation. But let us try and fix the problems that give rise to these validations. Tell us what are the sins, and let us see if they are worthy to be fixed. Mr. President, Clause 2 of this bill says, and it's worth reading, every person liable to be legally proceeded against on the ground that any of the acts referred to in subsection 1 was unauthorized, unlawfully done, or otherwise illegal or improper, for any such reason is hereby freed, acquitted, discharged, and indemnified, as well against the King's most gracious majesty, his heirs and successors, as well as against all persons, whatever, and from such liability. Mr. President, may we hasten the day when no more of our legislation will be indemnifying the King's most gracious majesty, his heirs and successors, be they Markle, what's her name? Meghan. Be they Meghan or otherwise. Be they Meghan or otherwise. I really hope that we will not have to come here to validate any more actions using these terms. May the Republic come quickly. May we never have to validate the decision of the King's Court, because when the Republic comes, may the King's Court also be separated. May it please you, Mr. President, and I know you are a member of that committee.
And I would have to say that it is with that in mind that this government, this one, has set up the Constitutional Reform Committee to do exactly what
I assume, Mr. President, that that's an interjection in my... I sat because I thought you were interjecting in my presentation.
And let me finish. And it is to the credit to the Parliament that both the government and the opposition have competent representatives on the committee. So hopefully we will move quickly. But it is not without observation that the Prime Minister, perhaps, who spoke the least about this subject, is the one who seems to be getting it done. But that's for another time and place.
Mr. President, I appreciate your interjection in my thing. But part of the difficulty is that in removing His Majesty most gracious...
We're not going to talk about that now.
No, I know, I'm saying it's the people. Yeah. It's the people. No, he interjected in my presentation. He interjected and I properly sat. I sat in accordance with the decorum. But Mr. President, as I end, it is the people who will decide.
Absolutely.
How soon the King move.
Absolutely.
Not the government.
Absolutely.
May it please you.
Absolutely. But I'm just making the observation. The one who spoke less about it is walking the walk. Minister Hill.
Mr. President, I just...
No, stick to the script.
Remember, sir, I presented... I am, Mr. President, I am indeed, but I must point out that what we really are asking for, since it wasn't digested, is consequently, this bill seeks to validate and confirm as lawful the purported continuation in office of the members of the tribunal and all official acts purportedly done by them, good faith and inadvertently, as to their continuation in office, and official acts not having been in compliance with the provision of the Act during the period, listen carefully, commencing the 28th day of May 2021 and ending on the 8th of May 2022 is for a period of 1 year, not 4 years. What we're asking for, because the tribunal was in fact reappointed in 2022, but there was a period of time when they were not appointed. Those acts that they did, which, Mr. President, are two. One was a matter heard before their period expired, but the decision came after the expiration date, and there was only one other item that was heard by them and a decision made by them after the expiration of the period. So this, along with my role, Mr. President, for one item, we are fixing this because I speak as a minister that is fixing it. This government is fixing it, and we're going to fix it today. So, Mr. President, for good order and concluding debate, I ask that the bill be read for a second time.
Thank you, Minister Hill. The question is that the bill be read for a second time. Those in favor? Against?
A bill entitled An Act to Validate and Confirm as Lawful the Purported Continuation in Office of the Members of the Consumer Protection Tribunal and all official acts done by them in good faith and inadvertent as to their not having been in compliance with the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act in the purported exercise of the functions conferred upon them during the period commencing on the 28th day of May 2021 and ending on the 8th day of May 2022, to indemnify the members of the Consumer Protection Tribunal and persons who are liable to be proceeded against on the ground that the acts were unauthorized, illegal, or improper from liability in relation thereto and for connected matters. Read a second time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Senate will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole Senate to consider the bills clause by clause. Thank you very much. I put clause 1. Those in favor? Against? I put clause 2. Those in favor? Against? I put the schedule. Those in favor? Against? I put the title and enacting clause. Those in favor? Against? Ayes have it. The question is that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment. Those in favor? Against? I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment. Minister?
Mr. President, I now ask that the bill be read for a third time.
Members would have heard the question. Those in favor? Against? The title and enacting clause. Where is it? Sorry, members. Here. Is it okay? Madam Clerk, read the bill for a third time, please. Sorry, 1 minute, please. Ms. Curtis.
Thank you.
hang on. Members, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask the members just to recommit the bill to committee stage. There is something that we didn't put. I'm sorry about that. So the question is that the bill be referred to committee of the whole Senate. Those in favor? Aye. Against? Members, absolutely, I take full responsibility. I did not put the preamble when we were putting the legislation. So I put the preamble of the bill. Those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. So I ask now that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment.
Mr. President, I ask that the bill be read a third time.
Thank you very much. Senator, Madam. The question is that the bill be read for a third time, Madam.
A bill entitled An Act to Validate and Confirm as Lawful the purported continuation in office of the members of the Consumer Protection Tribunal and all official acts done by them in good faith and inadvertent as to their not having been in compliance with the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act in the purported exercise of the functions conferred upon them during the period commencing on the 20th day of May 2021 and ending on the 8th day of May 2022 to indemnify the members of the Consumer Protection Tribunal and persons who are liable to be proceeded against on the ground that the acts were unauthorized, illegal, or improper from liability in relation thereto, and for connected matters, read a third time and passed.
Thank you, Madam. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, it is not intended to do any further business today on the formal agenda. As I indicated, however, there are two matters of national importance to be raised. I invite them to be taken now.
I think that the first one is Senator Rodriguez hyphen, sorry, Senator Campbell hyphen Rodriguez.
Thank you for the accuracy, Mr. President. Rodriguez. Rodriguez. Thank you. Mr. President, I rise to acknowledge Child's Month, which is commemorated in Jamaica during the month of May, and I think it is, thank you. I think it is quite opportune that we have visitors today who are children, and again, I must express my own welcome to these youngsters from Mount Salem Infant and Primary School. I see that Villa Road Primary has left. But, Mr. President, May is an important month in our calendar year, not only because it is, I see my colleague Senator saying it is an important month because it's her birth month, but we're going to, go back beyond that a little bit. Celebrated during this month, but because it's Child's Month. And this year, the theme is Children Need Our Love and Protection. Get involved. This I see as a call to action for all of us. And as announced at the launch on April 19th at the Grace Kennedy headquarters, Senator Webby, thank you for hosting them. We know that, as stated by the Prime Minister in his utterances and posts on social media, that the focus should be on the well-being of our nation's children. those of us who are mothers, aunts, godmothers, grandmothers. Do we have any grandmothers in here, though? I'm not sure. I just want us to think about it, and our fathers and our uncles and the brothers in the house, that we need to show children that someone cares about them. This call to action this year is a reminder that the well-being of this group of persons in our society is quite important. Our children need to feel safe, healthy, and empowered to be their best selves. And to do so, we need to create a safe and nurturing environment. And I just want to highlight 4 things that we can do in our individual spheres. 1, we can say, I love you to our children. Surprisingly, a lot of children in Jamaica do not hear the words, I love you. Because as we know, and is promoted often, big man don't say, I love you. But I want to flip that script a little bit and say, it shows a lot when you say, I love you. Let kids feel free to say no. Give them agency of themselves, their minds, and their bodies. Thirdly, ensure children understand how to set boundaries. Fourthly, hug our children as they need affection. And my colleague, Senator Dr. Longmore, has often spoken in this House about mental health and about the need for children to be able to play and to be happy. And fifthly, we need to teach our children to be comfortable in confiding in us. So those of us who are godparents, parents, aunts, uncles, be that space where our children can feel comfortable in telling us what is happening to them and feeling safe to do so. Mr. President, this year's theme, which as I said before is a call to action, gives us another opportunity as individuals and as groups to do right by our children, if it pleases you.
Thank you, Senator Campbell Rodriguez. Senator Morris.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning, I want to join my colleague in acknowledging Child's Month, one of my favorite times of the year, because I believe that it represents not just the future of our nation, but the hope of our nation, which I believe resides in our children. Mr. President, as my colleague said, this year we observe the theme, Children Need Our Love and Protection, Get Involved. And I agree that it is a call to action, get involved. This theme emphasizes the crucial role that each of us has to play in safeguarding the well-being of our children. We know that children are the most vulnerable members of our society, and so they rely on us to provide them with love, with care, and with protection. And unfortunately, in Jamaica, we tend to sometimes have a culture of neglect that I believe it is important for us to stem now if we want to protect future generations. And so we see across the island many children raising themselves. I want to, in this space, encourage everyone to not just leave the children up to their own devices, but to take an active role in shaping their lives, in guiding and molding their future. Mr. President, it is our duty as adults to ensure that children are safe from harm, that they have the resources they need to thrive, and that they're treated with respect and dignity. And when I talk about respect and dignity, specific groups come to mind, because the group of children aren't homogeneous. They have different needs. And so what comes to mind is children with disabilities, who are often left out of some of these conversations. What comes to mind is children who are in state care, who have tremendous challenges that they need to overcome. And Mr. President, I want to say here, while we are on this matter, that there are serious challenges that are happening in our state care facilities. Just this year, we would have seen just an awful uncovering of some of the challenges and the atrocities that are being faced by these children. And I want to submit to you, my colleagues, that we have a great role to play in ensuring that these children have an opportunity not just to grow, but to thrive. And so something must be done. The call was placed on the table for an audit of our child care facilities. And I'm again making that call, Mr. President, for us to take a deeper look at what is happening and correct some of these challenges, correct some of these missteps before we have any other unfortunate situations coming to light. So in closing, Mr. President, I want to say that this month should be used as an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to the well-being of our children. And this could simply look like mentoring a child, hugging a child. You said loving a child. That's so important. Talking to our children. Let us take also concrete steps to show them that they are valued and protected. I believe that by working together, we can indeed create a society where every child has the chance to grow and to thrive. I want to wish every child who might be listening a happy Child's Month and encourage parents to use the time to make their children feel extra special this month. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Morris. Senator Longmore.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And I rise to also add to the recognition of this very important national effort. More so in the context, though, of the mental health issues of our children and our adolescents. It is that important that we put emphasis not just only on the awareness of our children during Child Month, but we recognize that there is great need to see to the mental well-being of our children. And so I rise to bring attention to what is being done in that space. Mr. President, we're all probably now aware of the recent CAPRI report that indicated 8%, only 8% of the mental health needs and resources to address such being met in our system. Mr. President, this is not because of lack of effort on the part of the practitioners in our mental health services. And let me, at this point, bring recognition and appreciation to those psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, our psychiatric aides, our mental health officers, our public health nurses who see to the mental health needs of our children. I think they go way above the call of duty to ensure that those services are met. That being said, Mr. President, we recognize the great deficit, and I am going to make the appeal here that we seek to also, in this lack of resources there, one of the great challenges we have is persons who are seeking careers in mental health and careers in dealing with the mental health needs of our children. And so, in my capacity, where I'm now also working with the ministry to try and do something about mental health awareness and advocacy, you will be seeing that effort to increase and attract persons into the careers around mental health of our people, not just our children. I also, Mr. President, would want to bring attention to the specific activities that are being rolled out for the child mental health awareness effort. Starting from the 17th of May, you will be seeing more and more initiatives and media presence on themes for observation and tips for parenting and caring for our children's mental health needs. This is going to be on all social media spaces also. The actual day for child and adolescent mental health awareness is Thursday, May 26th, and this will be under the theme of empowering young minds, creating safe spaces for young people. A church service to launch is going to be on Sunday the 21st, and also a one-day scientific conference will be held on Thursday, May 25th, which is basically oriented around the child's brain at work. And this is going to be including persons who are clinical psychologists, consultant psychiatrists, persons from the Ministry of Education and Youth who are going to be focusing on child and adolescent mental health needs, Mr. President. Mr. President, Senator Campbell Rodriguez indicated the need for love and the need for caring for our children. I always endorse this, and I always encourage and try to bring the holistic approach to caring for not just ourselves, but our children. Mr. President, I cannot not help us recognize the importance, again, of our spiritual health care. And when I say this, I mean that sense of identity, that sense of belonging to something bigger than ourselves. Our children, especially because of the breakdown of our families, they are lacking in this. And so I make effort for us to remind our children of who they are, where they're coming from, that they're a part not just of their immediate family, but they're a part of this bigger Jamaican family. Mr. President, I also will underscore the power of play. Play. Play, as I have indicated before, when you play, you are doing something very healthy. You are physically engaged, socially engaged, mentally engaged, and spiritually engaged. Especially during this time, let us ensure our children are playing and have avenues for play. And as I say this, remember, they can play in the virtual space. And we know that that technology can be sometimes time-consuming. Remember, you still have to guide and parent them there. Remember that they need your structure even in that virtual space. Mr. President, lastly, I just want to add a little addendum that this is also Asthma Awareness Month. And just a little tick that prevention is always better than cure. In coming from my days of seeing those patients in my private practice, I always remind you, reduce the dairy content, watch the fan blades, make sure they're clean. It is as critical and as simple as the AC vent and how it is angled on you while you're using it, or the fan while you're sleeping. That could make a huge difference. And not put the white powder up on the picnic them neck. That will add to the asthma and exacerbate the respiratory symptoms. And always immune boost. Get your vitamins in. Any powder, any one of those, no, it's very, very bad for that. And remember, there's a risk to cancer. All right? So at the end of it, encourage your children, please, to still be children. Them grow up too fast. Happy Child's Month. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Longmore, and thank you for those advice. Senator Floyd Morris.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I rise to give support to the motion moved by Senator Sophia Longmore, and to say that it is very important that we take into consideration actively issues relating to mental health and especially as it relates to our children, because mental health is one of the leading causes of disability across the world, and there are different types of mental health, mental disabilities, and we have to make sure that we put in place the requisite support structures to have these individuals properly rehabilitated and integrated in our society. And oftentimes, we do not pay much attention to the mental health of our children, as Senator Longmore alluded to. And increasingly, we are seeing increases in mental health challenges for our children, and I think it might be because of something that Senator Longmore alluded to, is the lack of play that exists amongst our children today. They are more indoor and on their computers and not engaged in outdoor activities. You know, when I was growing up, I was playing cricket all over the place, playing football all over the place, dandy shandy, hopscotch, hide and seek, dog and bone. And as I talk about that, Mr. President, strange enough, when I was in Switzerland the other day, I'd gone to the cleaners, to the laundromat rather. And whilst I was there with my wife and walking down the road, there was a hopscotch that was drawn in the middle of the road. And they structured their society in such a way that you can lock off the road and prevent traffic, vehicular traffic, from flowing into the community once there is playtime. And there was this nice hopscotch, and I said to them that this is a Jamaican game. As a matter of fact, I was there under the guidance of my wife, you know, hopscotching around, you know. But I tell you, we need to get those things inscribed in our communities. When we're building these housing
got your feet in all the right squares.
Yes. And you, as a member of the NHT board, should advocate for that to be installed in these housing schemes that are being built, to make sure that those traditional Jamaican games, you know, the children have some means by which they can participate in that, and we don't see a dying of those, that part of our culture, because it's very important in assisting with the preservation of the mental health of our people. And so I recognize and support the motion as moved by Senator Longmore. May it please you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Morris.
Mr. President, thank you so very much for not only so warmly welcoming the children present with us on, again, auspiciously in the early part of Child Month, but also for ensuring that they feel so engaged and so much a part of this Parliament when you engage with them outside. I want to just thank you for it. I know it is not the inclination of everyone, and the fact that you make the effort, I think it's deeply appreciated, and it will impact on them for their lives.
I'm really attracted to the picture taking.
But they will remember this for many years, Mr. President, and it's something they will carry with their hearts. So I really want to encourage you in that, although I know you don't need it, just to acknowledge it for the record. I think it's wonderful. And with that, Mr. President, having noted these important issues, mental health awareness, and in fact, youth and adolescent mental health awareness and interventions, and the importance of Child Month, it is not intended to do any further business, and I ask that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Thank you very much, members. And I just really echo what the leader said. Those kids have come from Manchester, which is somewhere that Leader Bunting would have been at one time very much acquainted with that area. No, in Manchester. And from St. James, so they have come a long way. So it's important that we do make them feel engaged when they come. The question is that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? This Honorable Senate now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.